Good morning, known community, and welcome to today's edition of the Connection Corner. I am Barb Nangle. I'm the community manager at Known, and I want to welcome you to our show. In a moment, I am going to welcome Sarah Taylor of the Huneebee Project, and I will let her introduce herself and tell you more about the Honeybee Project. In the meantime, I want to tell you a little bit about Known. It's a dynamic co-working community to connect people across fields of expertise, endeavors, and experience. And though we started as a co-working community in downtown New Haven, and we're still the only co-working downtown in New Haven, we moved our community to the virtual world once the pandemic hit. As a reminder, Known Coworking has hourly, daily, and monthly plans for dedicated desks and office spaces. We also have conference rooms and Zoom rooms for rent. If you'd like to know more about the space, you can email me, barb@knowncoworking.com. And you can also check us out on nhvknown.com. That's our website. And we are on Instagram and Facebook at Known Coworking. You can DM us there. I mentioned that we moved our community online once the quarantine hit. And as a result, we now have 3 virtual programs. We have Digital Media Sync, the Connection Corner, and Pivot Talk. You can catch replays of all of our episodes on our website under the Known Live and Events menu. Digital Media Sync is your window to the digital world. It airs every Tuesday at 8:30 and is hosted by Julia Good. She's the social media maven of Agents of Branding. Pivot Talk is a virtual stage for businesses to share and learn as they grow. And this show, The Connection Corner, is a place for dreamers and thinkers and entrepreneurs and artists and creators and educators and community members to share who they are, what they do, who they serve, and how. It airs pretty much every single week. Next week, on Friday the 6th at 9 a.m., we will have Sammy Williams. She's the CEO of Sam's Word, and she's the project director of Knownpreneurs. This is a program that is grant funded that will be launching very soon. It's a quarterly business bootcamp intensive, allowing minority-owned businesses to benefit from the guidance and expertise of local business owners. So be sure to tune in next week for more details about how to apply to that program. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on any of our shows, shoot me an email. It's barb@knowncoworking.com. Our purpose in both the physical and virtual worlds is to make connections between people. We're here to get you connected, inspired, and known. So at this point, I am going to bring on Sarah Taylor. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for
Hi.
joining us this morning. So Sarah does have a prepared presentation, which she's going to show momentarily. But before you do that, if you could just give us a little bit of an intro about who you are and the Honeybee Project, just a taste of what's going to come in the presentation.
Sure, absolutely. I'm Sarah, and thanks again, Barb, for having me and everyone for being here. My background is in clinical social work, and I founded Honeybee Project about 2 years ago, which is a job skill training and employment social venture that brings on youth with past or present child protective or foster care involvement, offers them job skill training and employment opportunities, while also simultaneously installing beehives and pollinator-friendly green spaces in our community spaces.
Sounds like win, win, win to me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So did you see that comment? I don't know if you know Ella. She said, "Yay, beekeeping! This is our homeschooling."
That's wonderful.
Is
Oh, I'm
she
so happy
is
to
she
hear
somebody
that.
that you know?
No, I don't
Right.
think
Oh,
so.
cool. So we've got other youth doing beekeeping. That's fantastic.
Yes. Oh my gosh, makes my heart sing.
Awesome. Wow, what synergy there. So I am able to see if people have comments, I absolutely recommend that they go ahead and put them up. If they have a question for Sarah, I'll see the comment and I can either verbally tell her or I can post it. But if you are ready to go ahead with your presentation, I'm ready to put it up on the screen. Are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go, people.
Okay. All right. And let me know if there's any issues with the visuals.
Nope, I can see it just fine.
Okay, so like we shared, my name's Sarah, and I'm here to give a little bit more background on Huneebee Project, how we started, what we do, and where we're going. So, Honeybee Project is a small business and social enterprise, and we're actually in the process of transitioning to a nonprofit, and we're powered by youth. And at Honeybee Project, youth engage in transferable job skill training and employment opportunities within a supportive therapeutic context, while simultaneously installing honeybee hives and pollinator-friendly green spaces in community gardens and vacant lots in New Haven. And so I often get the question of, like, why bees? How did this happen? Why beekeeping? And so I'd like to first take everyone back a few years to my own introduction to bees and beekeeping, and really a story of collective burnout, both on a personal level and also what I believe to be a macro level. So back in 2016, I was working at a trauma-focused clinic in West Harlem with young children. And I was interfacing with various systems, the child protective system, the family court system, and trying my best to do justice by a complicated, under-resourced mental health care system. And I was frequently navigating systemic gaps and injustices. So, knowing all too well that these gaps and injustices were often perpetuating multi generational cycles of trauma, as well as power imbalances. Um, and I found myself coming across limitations in my own role as a therapist, and also limitations in the training that I'd received, which relied predominantly on Eurocentric models and approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout this,
Shocking.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels heavy even just talking about and thinking
Yeah,
about.
absolutely.
Um, and and in this, of course, witnessing and experiencing a consequent and pervasive sense of community disconnect and shutdown. And so these are some of the things that I was mentioning before. And cue beeswax candles. So I did what maybe any discouraged person might do, maybe not. I started just pounding out beeswax candles, and found that that was my refuge. Um, and I want to be clear, I never in doing this expected to keep or touch or care for bees. I was curious about them, but not that curious where I thought I would be putting on a bee suit. And so, as you can see by this picture, that changed, because beeswax led me to beekeepers. And I found that every beekeeper I spoke with had this delicate intensity as they talked about their bees. And I was suddenly immersed in an environment at a time when I needed it most that felt almost magical. It was wholesome, it was joyful, and most of all, it was hopeful. And that was my hook. And
Mm.
so over the months, as I continued to fall in love with beekeeping and candle making, I realized it was this undeniable healing, empowering, and therapeutic escape for me. And I wondered how that could be shared with others.
I'm intrigued by your use of the words delicate and intense together. Can you
Mhm.
say more about, like, what do you mean by that? Because those are not words that I typically
Yeah,
imagine being used together.
yeah. There's there's this intensity of passion that
Hmm.
also comes with this, like, very grounded, um, delicacy in approach.
Okay.
Um, and I don't.
I think I get it. Yeah, and I'm also like, when you say the word delicate, makes me think of bees and like their wings and their little
Absolutely.
bodies. It's a
Abs
delicate process, but you would
Yep.
have to be like intensely passionate to put a bee suit on and be around
Yep.
a bunch of bees, which most of us are like, bees, ah!
Yep, yep. Yeah, and so then they balance out into this like beautiful groundedness.
Mm,
Um and and with the delicacy, right, as you're saying, the delicacy of bees and these little tiny beings, um
mm,
also calls for a level of mindfulness, which is in part where I believe the therapeutic elements to beekeeping come from.
mm.
Having to be mindful of your body in space, in time, as you're handling all of these little, like buzzing, also potentially stinging insects.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out and asking about that. Um, And so this is a picture of our first cohort. So in 2018, Huneebee Project was created, and we launched our first training cohort. And Huneebee Project was created as an alternative health model that offers a new system. And so it's one that builds transferable job skills for youth with past or present child protective or foster care involvement, and one that does this in a therapeutic context. It's also one that increases connection and breaks down barriers to nature, and one that mobilizes community towards a shared vision for our environment and for our youth.
Wow. I mean, it just sounds so brilliant.
Mm. Yeah, there's a perfect synergy.
Mm.
And I love this picture. This
Yeah.
is um, actually a photo of the hand of one of our youth from our first pilot cohort.
Yeah.
And he came to Honeybee Project as a way of getting out of the house and earning money, because every youth who participates in this training program will graduate with a stipend. Um, and so that's often, particularly with our first cohort, what drove them to get
Yeah.
involved. And so I remember one of our first workshops, and we had one of our bee instructors, Beekeeper Bill, who was there, who was talking to the kids about honeybee biology and talking about like their proboscis and their exoskeletons and all of these things that make up who they are. And I looked over, and he just had his eyes glued on the ground and was like crushing ants with his with his feet one by one. And I was wondering, what is he taking any of this in? Um, and then, like, cue up 1 year later, here he is, and he was one of our first junior garden site managers. And one of his favorite things to do was to hold drone bees, which, for those who don't know, drones are the male bees, and they don't actually have stingers. And so I think that this photo really highlights how delicately, and there is that word delicate,
Mm.
that he's interacting with this bee, and really symbolic of the transformation that we see in many of the youth that are involved with honeybee.
Wonderful. What a good story. And I was thinking when you said the word proboscis and exoskeleton, I
Mhm.
thought you were going to go to not the vocabulary that the kids really want to hear, you
And
know?
that too, yeah. Yeah, yep, yep. That's something, yeah, that we've had to scale back, because even, I mean, I remember when I first went to my like beekeeping 101, when I was introduced to beekeeping. And it was actually here, it was like a 1 day bee school here in New Haven.
Mhm.
And I went through the day, it was like listening to Shakespeare for the first time. What, like what? And so yeah, scaling it back,
Mm,
going like, okay, like let's define what a colony is.
yeah.
What's an apiary? Then maybe, yeah, later down the line we can get to exoskeletons and proboscis.
Right.
Yeah. So to better understand Honeybee Project's model, I have it divided into three central components, and I'll walk us through that. And so the first is youth training and employment. The second is our marketplace, and the third is community involvement. Um, so as we've been talking about. All youth at Huneebee Project start off as trainees in this 4-month job skill training program. And during this time, they're referred to as beekeepers in residence. And it's here that they're introduced to honeybees and beekeeping. They will build bee boxes. They paint them in ways that highlight their artistry and their unique self-expression. And they
Very cool.
install the
Love it.
beehive.
Oh my God, those are beautiful.
Yeah, they're stunning. And so these are bee boxes that were again painted by our first cohort. And then the youth also experience workshops in resume development and support in identifying transferable job skills. And then throughout this, we integrate tracking exercises, mindfulness practices, and we assign clinical social workers to serve as mentors. So every youth works one-on-one with a mentor throughout the 4 months.
Nice. Wow.
And
Rocking
here
the
we
beekeeping
are.
suits. Look
I
at that.
know, making it cool. Yeah, they're stunning. And at the end of the 4 months, they graduate as beekeepers, and with an array of achievements. Achievements in, I mean, in such a range of things, from interpersonal skills, self-efficacy, nature education. And they also all graduate with a finalized resume. And as I mentioned previously, they receive a stipend for their contribution to the garden and their contribution to the greater community.
Nice.
And then graduates go on to fill a multitude of integral roles as paid employees with Honeybee. They also continue to receive supportive on-the-job training. They contribute to program decision-making. They participate in community events and awareness-raising initiatives, and they help to create a welcoming, safe space for new participants. And they also go on to power our marketplace. So our marketplace funds all aspects of Honeybee. This includes programming, employment, and stipends.
What a fantastic model. I absolutely love that.
Thank you. And it exists, our marketplace also exists to increase our customers' connection to nature and to promote awareness of the importance of honeybees and pollinators. So Barb, back to you saying like win, win, win. That's like
Yeah.
totally what this is intended to be.
Right. Yeah. So I've been following you on Instagram for a while now, and I've
Mhm.
noticed that you have products from other artists, like for example, the pots and these plants right
Mhm.
here. So are you going to be talking about like what that connection is and all that in this presentation, or?
Yeah. So this is thanks for bringing that up. This is what our marketplace looks like if you were to go to our site. And we have planters and we have vases, which are also intended to bring nature indoors and to again increase that connection.
Mhm.
Um, and they're all made by small batch artists who have values and ways of creating their art that really align with who we are,
Excellent.
and with what we identify with. We also have some pretty sweet honeybee gear on our
Pretty
site.
sweet, huh?
Yeah, and
I bet you guys do so much bee and
we love.
honey puns
Yep.
and jokes. Yeah.
Mhm. We love them. Yes. Always looking for new bee puns, so feel free to
Yeah.
pass them along.
Yeah. Anybody got a bee pun? Put it in the comments. I'll post it.
And then we also have pollinator seed packs. And it's a specific blend that was guided by the Xerces Society. If you haven't heard of them, I definitely recommend checking them out. And these blends are specifically for the Northeast.
And what is the society?
It's the Xerces Society, so it's Xerces. And they
Okay.
also have so many resources for how.
Xerces
Yep,
Society. Okay, I'm making a banner for that right now so that people can see
great.
it.
Great. Yeah. They have a lot of resources for planting pollinator friendly green spaces as well.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
you can buy seeds directly from them,
Okay.
or they'll direct you to places that they support and can vouch for.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. So that's our online marketplace at the moment. And oh, and I shouldn't forget to mention that also on our marketplace, we have an option for sponsoring a hive. And so this comes in three different tiers. There's the option to sponsor seasonal maintenance for a beehive in one of our gardens. There's an option to sponsor new hive construction and installation. And then there's an option to sponsor new hive construction, installation, bees, and honey. And so with this final tier, it also allows you to get some honey. And so we'll send you a 24-ounce jar of honey from your hive's first extraction.
Wow. So you're making me think because I live over on the East Shore. So I live across from Fort Hale Park, the East Shore Park, and the Pardee Seawall Park. And
Okay.
what fantastic places for that.
Mhm.
So let's say somebody wanted to sponsor this. Can they also try to like make the connection and say, I want this in my neighborhood?
I wouldn't count it out.
Okay.
Right now, most of with the exception of some offsite hives that we have in Clinton,
Hmm.
our gardens have been located in the communities where our youth live. And so
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
and that allows a sense of ownership,
Yeah.
allows our youth to be able to, easily access the
Mhm.
gardens for work.
Yeah.
But in the coming year, it sounds like we may be expanding, and
Okay.
might have a site in North
Yeah.
Haven, and so that's and maybe in Hamden. But that's
Cool.
not out of the question.
Well, if the school buses were any indicator, there's quite a number of youth that live in this neighborhood as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Just I mean, we can talk after.
Sure.
And for anyone else who has any ideas, just always feel free to reach out.
And by the way, I had your website up. So
Mhm.
the store, I can't remember what you're calling it. I'm calling it the store. It's on the honeybeeproject.com website,
It is.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
There's a little tab up top that'll say shop.
shop.
And
Okay.
that'll bring you both to the marketplace, and then it'll
Marketplace.
also give you the option to check out and learn more about the makers. And so those are the artists behind a lot of the products.
Fantastic. And just remember, everybody, it's honeybee spelled very differently, Huneebee.
Hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Our own little term of endearment. Okay. So in the future, well, we're still on the topic of marketplace. In the future, we hope to open a brick and mortar retail site. And so this would be complete with plants and flowers, a coffee and tea bar, and of course, honey inspired baked goods.
Mm.
So community engagement, so important to us, and something that I think we all, and as you're doing, should be fostering more of. And
So,
it goes,
Sarah, I just want to interrupt you for a second. So,
yeah,
Ella, the young person that has the beekeeping at home,
yes,
just put up another comment and she says, highest percentage of children that live here in the East Shore, last I checked.
there we
She
go.
lives in my neighborhood. Hey, Ella.
Yes. Okay, okay, let's do it, guys. Yeah, Barb, we'll have to talk afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and thank you, Ella. So, community engagement at Honeybee goes beyond just purchasing products. The communities in which the gardens or lots lived are invited to take part in various free workshops, which are hosted at the garden sites, and we refer to these as community hive checks. They generally take place weekly throughout the summer months and include helping to maintain our hives, learning more about the cycle of the honeybee, and of course, honey tastings. Unfortunately, and probably not surprisingly, just as many organizations have had to make adjustments and pivots due to the pandemic, we had to put these on hold this past summer, but plan and hope to be able to resume them next summer.
So, question for you. I know, can you go back
Sure.
to that slide for a
Yep.
moment? So, one person is totally ensconced in the beekeeping garb, and the other dude
Mm.
has like none of that on.
Yeah.
So, A, why? And
hmm
B, is there like this certain kind of like status that you get when you graduate to the point where you're like, I don't need the beekeeping suit anymore?
Yeah, maybe kind of like an unspoken thing. This
Right.
is this is Tim. And Tim is pretty well known here in New Haven and around New Haven in the beekeeping world. And he's one of our bee instructors. And Tim has been beekeeping for, I want to say, almost 20 years, around 20 years. And he rarely wears gloves. He will, on occasion, wear a veil, but you can often, as you become more familiar with the bees, you become more familiar with what their triggers are and when and if they're going to be aggressive.
Mhm.
So it's usually smart to at least keep a veil around.
Mhm.
But Tim also, I mean, he'll get stung and he won't flinch.
Got
Whereas
it.
whereas the visitor that we had was checking out bees for the first time, and we would never expect or encourage him to go into that experience without being well suited up.
Okay. So I'm having an idea brewing here before we
Mhm.
move on. Ella, who's watching,
Mhm.
who's doing beekeeping at home, who lives in my neighborhood,
Uh-huh.
the three of us should talk at some point. So, Ella, I'm going to be following up with you on Facebook because wouldn't that be cool, Sarah?
I'm into it.
Okay.
Yeah. Should I keep going?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Um So, and that's really a perfect segue too, because this is our team. And so our team includes an exceptional array of volunteers and youth. We have two, actually now three volunteer bee instructors. And they lead workshops for our beekeepers in residence and community hive checks, and also help to care for our beehives. We have a photographer and arts educator who's responsible for a lot of these stunning photos. And she also leads workshops for our beekeepers in residence on photo literacy and creative outlets for self expression. We have a director of professional development who spearheads um, our budding professional development webinar series. We have a director of partnerships who encourages community collaboration, supports Hive sponsorships, and oversees event planning. And then our mentor and resume specialist is a licensed clinical social worker who promotes mentorship and leads workshops on resume development. And then, of course, most importantly, our youth. Um, Gianna and Alex have been with us for uh, over a year and a half now, and we're both recently promoted. So Gianna and Alex previously served as junior garden site managers, and now Gianna has taken on a new role in managing hive sponsorships. So she is building and painting nearly all of the Hive sponsorships that come in. Alex is piloting a new job skill training track as a bee apprentice. And the goal is that she will actually independently maintain the beehives in our Arthur Street garden. And then
Cool.
Nazir and Dylan are our two newest hires and are serving as junior garden site managers. And they help with a whole bunch of things. And it's also an opportunity as a junior garden site manager to kind of dabble in different areas. So both dabble in the garden, dabble with product development. They help to take pictures for marketing. They will co-lead community hive checks, and then they can kind of figure out where their interests lie, um, and
Wow,
as
that's
they
what a
stay with
great.
us, can enter something into a role that's a little bit more specialized.
Fantastic. So I'm assuming that all of those youth were in in one of your cohorts. Like they've come
Yep.
through the program. You don't just hire outside young people.
No.
Okay. And then I do want to read you Ella's comment. She says
Hmm.
she'd love to talk. She's not beekeeping yet, but it's been a goal for her little homestead. And she bought some native plants with Julia, who's actually part of the crew at Known in Mass this year. And that's how she heard about the event, was from Julia. So thanks. Shout out to Julia
Yay.
there. All
Awesome.
right.
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. I mean, hopefully we'll talk later, but also anyone who's here, feel free to reach out with any questions about beekeeping, any questions about planting for our bees and other pollinators. And I definitely don't always have the answers, but I can do my best to direct you to the right place.
Wonderful.
And this is little gathering of some of our um, partners and supporters, and we've been just really fortunate to collaborate with an array of small
Mm,
businesses, community groups, and local foundations.
mm. And how do you get your partnerships? Is it that I know you had a staff person that was in charge of partnerships. Do they just kind of approach like-minded businesses?
So much has happened organically.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, yeah. I mean, which also speaks to the power of community, right? Um,
Absolutely. I mean,
and the
that's
power of
what known co-working is all about, is
yeah.
things happening organically. So for example, the reason that you're here is because Marina Marmolejo was a guest on the show. And the reason that she's here is because Della Leapman was a guest on the show. All three of
Mhm,
you are alum of Collab.
mhm,
And the reason that Della is here is because when we were giving tours of the known co-working space at the very beginning, we part of the tour was saying, you know, this room is going to be dedicated for moms who need to pump when they're breastfeeding. And Kathy Graves from the Economic Development Department was like, there's an entrepreneur in New Haven who has created pumping stations for moms that can be inserted into bathrooms, which is how I met Della. So just you can see the connection, and that is how co-working works, whether it's online or in person, and it's all about building community. My title is community manager, and my job is to connect people and to
mhm.
create community. So that's, this is right up our alley here. So I mean, I can't tell you how delighted I am to have you on the show and to hear all the cool stuff that you're doing and the impact. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, gosh, snaps for New Haven too. We
Yeah.
have
Oh my
such a
God, I love New Haven. Love it.
yeah. Hmm. Well, so I know we're like kind of wrapping up on time, but I do, if we have time, just want to share a little bit about what we've been able to accomplish and where we're
Absolutely. I
going.
definitely want to hear that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Um, so to date, we have graduated three training cohorts.
Nice.
Um, and we have actually graduated these three training cohorts with 100% retention rate, which I think really
Wow.
speaks to the power of the bees and beekeeping.
Mm,
And so what this means is that each trainee who showed up on day one, and as I indicated before, often youth are showing up with not a whole lot of interest in the bees or beekeeping.
right.
So each trainee who showed up on day one graduated with having attended a minimum of 75% of workshops and
Mm,
completed a resume. Um,
wow.
and this is pretty incredible, seeing as many of the youth who come and join us struggle to show up to school,
Right.
and some of them also may feel pressure to join, whether it be by a family member. I know a couple of our youth have shared that they felt pressure to join by grandmothers. Like their grandmothers were really excited about this, but
Mm,
and wished that they could participate, whereas the teens initially, like, not so much. Um, and and a really nice example that highlights this is I remember with our going back to our first training cohort, and most of them shared on the first day, you know, where you said, "Why are you here?" And most of them share, like, "I'm here because I know that I want to use my stipend to, like, buy a plane ticket to California," or like, I'm here because I want to make some money." So most of it was stipend related. And then fast forward 4 months later, when we were preparing for graduation and reminded them, like, "Okay, and you're going to be getting your stipend at this point, like, are you still going to use it for what you initially thought you would?" And I remember them looking at me and saying, like, "We completely forgot about the stipend, like, what a nice surprise." um which is just fantastic.
Okay, I took you off just because you were talking, so I'll add the slideshow back up. There we go. All right.
So this is a nice quote from Alex, who is our bee apprentice, and she says, "Working with Huneebee Project has given me so many amazing opportunities and has helped me so much with coping with my own personal anxieties and pushing past my limits and being able to to both socialize better and develop job skills I will need for my own very bright future."
Oh, I love that. Is Alex a boy or a girl? I almost said she,
So
but
female, yeah.
girl. So I love that she said my own very bright future. Now from a kid who is in either protective custody or foster care to believe they have a bright future, I mean that says it all right
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. So, also initial data shows that beekeepers' longstanding hypotheses of beekeeping being this complementary health practice may in fact be true. So, we've found that 100% of youth participants from our pilot cohort who completed pre and post measures endorsed decreases in trauma reactions and symptoms, and we're in the
Wow.
process of analyzing additional data. Um, and and so that idea that being in the midst of hives and having to be aware of your body and space and time and having and also having like a very natural fear response that's activated,
Mhm.
um, but in a context where one feels a little bit more in control and prepared, um,
Yeah.
is is something that is very likely healing.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds it. Wow.
These are the 3 gardens that we've installed hives in. We've installed 11 hives, and these are in addition to our 8 offsite hives.
You said in Clinton, they're in Clinton.
Mhm. They are. We've secured a number of seed grants and funded a Kickstarter, and our supporters have just been incredible and growing. We've secured um, around 25 hive sponsorships, which have also allowed us to install additional hives, to pay youth employees, and to maintain our hives throughout seasonal maintenance. We have honey available on our shop. We also have been selling honey at one of the Gather farmers markets, and also selling recently we started selling honey at a new ice cream shop in Chester, which specializes in just incorporating honey into everything that they
No
make and sell.
kidding. What a
Yeah,
cool connection.
yeah, it's called
There's
Honey
a
Company.
co-working place in I think it's in Bridgeport, Beehive.
Oh,
Ah,
I love it. Yeah, gosh,
yeah.
yeah, bees are popping up everywhere.
Mhm.
Bees and honey. Um, And so what's next? As I mentioned, we're in the process of converting to a nonprofit, which is going to allow us to have greater reach and impact. We're also launching our 4th training cohort in March of next year. We hope to double our number of hives to 40 by the end of next year. We're also expanding our product offerings finally to include beeswax candles, which we know how I feel about that, and candle accessories. And we really hope to be able to open up that brick and mortar site as well as a training hub, this central location for youth in the next 2 to 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lots going on.
Yeah. And back to community, we couldn't have gotten here without our community, and I
Mm,
don't expect us to move to where we're headed without our community.
mm,
And so here are a few ways that people can join us. Um, there is always the option of sponsoring hives and making donations through our website, but also like buy local honey and plant green spaces. Um, we are always looking for indoor space that would allow us to stock inventory because, as you can imagine, with 20 beehives comes like a whole bunch of gear. We also don't always use all of the boxes at one time. Um, and and so right now things are kind of like schlepped from one place to another place. And so having one
mm.
central location would just allow us to have a lot more cohesion and be a beautiful thing. And then
I do
visit
want
our
to
website.
mention that before we came on the air, I was asking Sarah, like, what kind of space, warehouse, whatever. I was like, would a garage be enough? And she said yes. So if you have an empty garage and you
Mm-hmm.
don't mind them using it as their storage place and their packing place and everything, make sure that you connect with them.
Yeah, thank you. So that's us.
All right,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, I'm going to take the slideshow off. And I do want to share, Gabriella is back again. And this is in regard to your comment about the trauma. She says the newest neuroscience research shows that one can rewire the brain to heal from trauma through experiences that are hard/challenging that are geared towards safe success.
Mm-hmm.
This is rebuilding resilience. Absolutely. That's
Exactly.
my experience as well. And clearly, it's the experience of the young people, um, in your project. That's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like all the questions that I had going in, we've answered either through the conversation or through the presentation.
Beautiful.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our community that you haven't had an opportunity to share?
No, I just hope this highlights all of the different ways and different levels that people can be involved, that we can join together, um,
Right.
and that we can really support our environment.
Mm. Yeah, I think
Need that.
like one of the things like she said before to me is that literally just following them on social media is a help. So if you have your phone in your hand, go to Instagram and or Facebook and go to @Huneebee Project
Mhm.
and start following them because the more following they have, the better. But you can also make donations if you know somebody who's got a space, etc. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
thank
Well, thank
you.
you so much, Sarah. I'm going to actually take you off screen while I close up, but if you wouldn't mind sticking around for a couple minutes, that would be
Sure
great.
thing. Sure thing.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, thank you everybody for being here and watching the show. Even if you are watching the recording after the fact, I encourage you to leave comments. We will make sure that they get to Sarah. And I want to thank Sarah for all the work that she's doing and what a fantastic organization. I love everything about it. I also want to give you a couple of reminders for next week. So at 8:30 on Tuesday morning, Digital Media Sync, hosted by Julia Gooch, the social media maven of Agents of Branding. And she has, for the last 3 weeks, been talking about digital marketing for holiday success. So, what she said to me that she wanted me to share today was people should catch up on the past 3 Digital Media Sync episodes. If you haven't seen all of them or watched all of them, go ahead and do that. And because they each talk about a different aspect of digital marketing for the holidays. And then this Tuesday is going to be part 4, where she's going to bring all the holiday sales digital media sync episodes together into a robust campaign for success. So if you are going to be selling anything online, and that includes you, Sarah, Sign up for the Known newsletter, which, by the way, Sarah, you're already on it, to get the downloads that she mentions. And I also want to remind you that next Friday on this show, so that's Friday the 6th at 9 a.m., we're going to have Sammy Williams. She is the CEO of Sam's Word, and she's the project manager for Knownpreneur. So this is the grant-funded program that we are going to be launching soon. It's a quarterly business bootcamp intensive, allowing minority-owned businesses to benefit from the guidance and expertise of local business owners. So be on the lookout because we're going to be recruiting our first cohort soon. Thank you again so much for joining us, everyone. Have a fantastic day.